Wind howls against the Guatemala cliff face. Rain slashes sideways like whips across stone. 6 Navy SEALs trapped in a narrow ravine, mud rising to their knees, ammunition, running low, wounded men groaning in the darkness. "Sir, we're not getting out," whispers Specialist Kevin Ross, clutching his mother's necklace with trembling fingers. Commander Nathan Cole surveys their position. No retreat route, no reinforcements, no miracles left. He breathes the truth they all know. We've been left for dead. Enemy flashlights sweep downward. Boots scrape closer against wet stone. Then suddenly from the western ridge muzzle flash ignites a wall of bullets carving through rain, opening a bloody path through the black night. If this glimpse of hope already sent chills down your spine, tap like and subscribe now, because the storm that follows will shake you even harder. 6 days ago, SEAL Team Delta received orders that would change everything. What began as a reconnaissance mission along the Guatemala border had devolved into a nightmare of failed intelligence and abandoned objectives. Now they huddle in a ravine that has become their potential grave, forgotten by command and forsaken by luck. Specialist Kevin Ross, barely 21 with Iowa cornfields still in his dreams, checks his rifle for the 100th time. The mechanism jams with mud and rainwater, another reminder that their high-tech equipment means nothing against nature's relentless assault. His mother's silver cross hangs heavy around his neck, a talisman from a world that seems impossibly distant from this Guatemalan hell. Petty Officer Marcus Hill clutches his wounded shoulder, blood seeping through makeshift bandages that can't stop the steady leak of life from his body. Once the team's premier marksman, he now struggles to hold his rifle steady, his usually perfect aim compromised by pain and blood loss. The irony cuts deep a sniper who can no longer shoot straight. Staff Sergeant Tommy Chen sorts through their remaining ammunition with methodical despair. 3 magazines between 6 men, enough for one last firefight if they're lucky. If they're not enough for each man to choose his own ending, rather than face capture by the cartel forces that have been hunting them across these unforgiving mountains. Commander Nathan Cole studies the tactical map that has become useless paper in his hands. Red ink bleeds across marked positions, objectives that no longer matter to a team that officially doesn't exist. Command wrote them off after the 4th day of radio silence. Ghost Team Delta men who were already ghosts before they died. Their MREs taste like cardboard soaked in despair. The photographs in their chest pockets, wives, children, parents have become waterlogged reminders of lives they may never see again. Ross keeps touching his mother's letter, the paper dissolving at the edges like their hopes of extraction. "Command wrote us off," Cole states what they all know. "We're ghosts already." The words carry weight beyond military terminology. They aren't just missing in action, they've been erased from existence. Deniable casualties in a war that doesn't officially exist. Their families will receive carefully worded letters about classified operations and unavoidable losses. Hill squints through the rain at something that catches his attention on the opposite ridge. A brief flash of light, too deliberate to be lightning, too controlled to be enemy equipment. He blinks away water and blood, wondering if blood loss is causing hallucinations. "You see that?" Hill whispers to Chen, pointing toward the western slope. Chen follows his gaze but sees only darkness and rain. "See what?" Hill shakes his head, unable to explain the feeling that they're being watched. Not by enemies preparing an assault, but by something else entirely. Someone else. The feeling persists as night deepens around their position. Somewhere in the mountains above them, Hill senses eyes that aren't hostile, a presence that doesn't belong to their hunters. But exhaustion and injury make him doubt his own perceptions. Ross tries to clean his rifle again, knowing the effort is probably futile. The weapon that made him deadly in training has become a club in these conditions. He thinks about his mother's voice reading bedtime stories about Iowa summers that never seemed to end, about all the simple pleasures he took for granted. Cole checks his watch, a habit that no longer serves any purpose. Time has become meaningless when every hour could be your last. The chronometer counts toward nothing but inevitable confrontation with enemies who know these mountains better than the Americans ever could. But Hill continues to sense something on the ridge above them. Not threat, but possibility. Not death approaching, but perhaps salvation waiting in the shadows where none of them thought to look. The storm intensifies, and with it their sense of isolation, from a world that has already forgotten their names. Dawn brings no relief, only better visibility for the hunters closing their trap. Mortar rounds begin falling like deadly rain, each explosion walking closer to the SEALs' position with methodical precision. The enemy has found them, and escape routes that seem possible in darkness now reveal themselves as carefully prepared kill zones. Ross presses himself against the muddy ravine wall, feeling vibrations through stone each time a shell impacts nearby. Fragments of rock and metal sing through the air, adding fresh cuts to faces already scraped raw by wind and debris. His rifle clicks empty, the last of his ammunition spent on targets he couldn't see clearly enough to hit. "Contact left," Chen shouts, spotting muzzle flashes from positions that shouldn't exist according to their intelligence briefings. The enemy has surrounded them with tactical precision that speaks of professional military training, not the irregular forces they were told to expect. Hill attempts to provide covering fire, but his wounded shoulder makes accurate shooting impossible. His shots go wild, wasting precious ammunition while failing to suppress the advancing threat. Each missed shot represents another step closer to the inevitable end of their resistance. The enemy taunts them through battery-powered speakers, voices distorted by electronics and cruelty. "Americans, your flag won't save you here. You die like dogs in our mountains." Cole tries desperately to establish radio contact with any friendly forces, but static fills the airwaves like electronic snow. Either their equipment has finally succumbed to the brutal conditions, or command has truly abandoned them to whatever fate awaits in these hostile peaks. Panic creeps into Ross's voice as he realizes their tactical situation has become hopeless. "Sir, we can't hold this position. We don't have enough ammunition for a sustained firefight." Chen's rifle jams at the worst possible moment, leaving him frantically trying to clear a malfunction while enemy fire intensifies around their position. The mud that has plagued them for days finally claims their weapons, turning precision instruments into useless metal. Hill spots movement on multiple approaches. They're being flanked from 3 directions simultaneously. Professional tactics employed by forces that know exactly how to eliminate a trapped special operations team. This isn't a chance encounter. It's an execution planned with military precision. "Make every round count," Cole orders, though they all understand the mathematics of their situation. 6 men with minimal ammunition facing superior numbers on ground chosen by their enemies. The outcome has been predetermined by circumstances beyond their control. Ross grips his mother's necklace, whispering prayers learned in childhood Sunday schools that seem impossibly distant from this moment of violence and desperation. The silver cross cuts into his palm as his grip tightens, a physical anchor to memories of safety and love. Mortar fire walks closer with each salvo. The enemy gunners have found their range and are systematically eliminating any cover that might provide protection. Soon the Americans will be completely exposed to direct fire from positions they can't effectively engage. Hill's vision blurs from blood loss and exhaustion. The marksman who once placed shots with surgical precision now struggles to focus his eyes, let alone his rifle scope. His specialty, long-range precision fire, has become irrelevant in close-quarters combat. He's too wounded to effectively conduct. Chen discovers that 3 of their remaining magazines are completely fouled with mud, leaving them with even less ammunition than their desperate calculations suggested. Mathematical certainty, they cannot win a sustained engagement against forces that outnumber and outgun them. Cole makes the hardest decision of his military career. Conserve ammunition. Make them come to us. It's not a tactical decision, it's an acceptance of fate. They will die in this ravine, but they will die as warriors, not as victims fleeing in panic. The best they can hope for is to make their deaths expensive for the enemy. Ross closes his eyes and tries to remember his mother's voice singing lullabies, to hold on to something beautiful as darkness closes around their position. The sound of incoming fire mingles with memories of Iowa Springs, creating a surreal soundtrack for what may be his final moments. The enemy voices grow closer, more confident. They know they have trapped wounded prey with nowhere to run. Victory has become a matter of patience rather than tactics. But Hill, despite his wounds and fading vision, continues to sense something watching from the ridge above. Not enemy observers preparing final coordinates, but something else entirely. A presence that doesn't fit the tactical picture painted by their desperate situation. Lightning illuminates the mountains briefly, and in that instant of visibility, Hill glimpses movement on the western slope that doesn't match enemy positions or natural phenomena. Then the first impossible shot splits the air. The first enemy gunner drops before any SEAL fires a shot. The bullet comes from nowhere, a precise round that covers impossible distance through driving rain and howling wind to find its target with surgical accuracy. The enemy soldier crumples silently, his weapon clattering against stone as life leaves his body in an instant. Ross stares in bewilderment. None of them pulled a trigger, yet death has found their hunters with professional efficiency that surpasses anything they witnessed in their military training. The second shot follows 3 seconds later. Another enemy fighter falls, this one positioned behind cover that should have provided complete protection from angles available to the trapped SEALs. Whoever is firing has line of sight to positions that seem impossible to engage from any location the Americans could have reached. Each shot carries the signature of master marksmanship, single rounds placed with mechanical precision, no wasted ammunition, no follow-up shots needed. Clean kills executed with the efficiency of someone who has made killing an art form through years of dedicated practice. Hill squints through rain and blood toward the western ridge, trying to identify their mysterious benefactor. Muzzle flashes provide brief illumination, but the shooter's position remains concealed behind natural cover that would hide an army. Contact, contact! Enemy voices shout in Spanish panic, replacing the confidence that had marked their earlier communications. They're taking casualties from an unknown threat they cannot locate or engage effectively. Chen watches in amazement as an enemy mortar crew dies in rapid succession, gunner, loader, spotter eliminated with clockwork timing that speaks of someone who understands infantry tactics better than the textbooks teach them. The mysterious marksman targets key personnel with tactical intelligence that would impress special operations instructors. Radio operators die first, severing enemy communications. Squad leaders fall next, disrupting command and control. Heavy weapons crews disappear, eliminating the firepower advantage that had made the SEALs' position untenable. Ross counts the rhythm of shots, approximately 8 seconds between rounds, enough time for target acquisition, breath control, and precise trigger squeeze even under the worst possible conditions. Professional shooting that maintains consistent accuracy despite environmental challenges that would defeat most marksmen. Cole recognizes the tactical pattern emerging from the ridge. This isn't random shooting or lucky shots, it's systematic elimination of threats conducted with the kind of expertise that comes from years of combat experience and extensive training in precision marksmanship. El Tirador Fantasma, enemy voices scream through the rain. The ghost shooter. Fear replaces aggression in their communications as unseen death picks apart their tactical formation with ruthless efficiency. Professional soldiers reduced to frightened men, seeking cover from an opponent they cannot locate or counterattack. Hill attempts to spot the source of salvation, but the shooter remains invisible despite the increasingly desperate enemy efforts to locate and suppress the threat. Whoever is saving their lives operates with fieldcraft that surpasses anything in their experience. The enemy commander attempts to rally his forces, but his voice cuts off abruptly as another precise shot finds its mark. Leadership decapitated communications, severed heavy weapons, silenced the tactical situation, reverses completely within minutes. Chen notices the shooter's ammunition selection, each round perfectly suited for its target and conditions. No ricochets, no overpenetration, no wasted shots. Someone who understands ballistics better than most people understand their own names. Ross dares to hope for the first time in days. Death, which seemed certain minutes earlier, retreats as their mysterious guardian systematically dismantles the threat that had surrounded them with professional competence they never could have achieved alone. Cole begins to recognize a pattern in the shooting that triggers memories of classified briefings and whispered stories from veterans who spoke of legendary marksmen whose exploits bordered on mythology. The enemy retreat accelerates as their remaining forces realize they face an opponent beyond their capability to engage effectively. Professional soldiers acknowledge superior force when they encounter it, and survival instincts override tactical objectives when death approaches with mechanical precision. Hill's vision clears enough to spot movement on the ridge, a figure repositioning with tactical awareness that keeps them concealed while maintaining field of fire over the entire area of operations. Not luck, but skill developed through years of training and combat experience. The last enemy soldiers flee rather than face continued engagement with a threat they cannot understand or counter. Their confident assault has become panicked retreat in the space of minutes. Professional tactical plan destroyed by single marksmen operating from positions they never imagined could threaten their operation. Silence settles over the ravine, broken only by the sound of rain against stone and the distant echo of enemy vehicles departing at high speed. The immediate threat has been eliminated with efficiency that leaves the SEALs speechless, with gratitude and amazement. Cole studies the ridge where their salvation originated, wondering who could have orchestrated such precise violence in their defense. The shooting displayed skills that exist only among the most elite marksmen in military service, yet no friendly forces were supposed to be operating in this area. "Who the hell was that?" Ross whispers, voicing the question they're all thinking. But answers will have to wait. Their mysterious guardian has given them something more valuable than explanations. They have given them life. As the SEALs cautiously emerge from their death trap, a figure materializes from the ridge like smoke given human form. Through the diminishing rain, they see someone approaching with movements that speak of military training and hard-earned experience. It's a woman, perhaps 40 years old, wearing civilian clothes that have seen better decades. Her weathered jacket bears the stains of mountain weather and long solitude. A faded baseball cap sits low over eyes that have seen too much violence and too little peace in recent years. She carries an M40A5 sniper rifle with modifications that speak of professional customization, a weapon maintained with the reverence usually reserved for religious artifacts. The scope alone costs more than most people earn in months' precision optics that make impossible shots achievable in the right hands. Ross stares in disbelief, his preconceptions crumbling like sandcastles struck by waves. "She's just some local?" But Commander Cole notices details that escape younger eyes. The way she moves across broken ground without disturbing loose stones. The systematic scan of potential threat avenues that marks someone trained in counter-surveillance techniques. Most importantly, the faded tattoo visible beneath her rolled sleeve USMC Eagle Globe, an anchor nearly invisible but unmistakable to those who know what to look for. Marine Cole states with certainty that comes from 20 years of military service. The woman doesn't confirm or deny his observation. Instead, she studies each SEAL with professional assessment that evaluates their condition, combat effectiveness, and likelihood of surviving extraction from hostile territory. Hill attempts to thank their savior, but words seem inadequate for someone who just prevented their deaths with shooting skills that bordered on supernatural accuracy under impossible conditions. Move, she says simply, voice-carrying authority that comes from leading soldiers through situations where mistakes mean death. "You've got 6 minutes before the reinforcements arrive." Chen checks his watch, wondering how she could know enemy response times with such precision. The answer suggests intelligence-gathering capabilities that go beyond casual observation of local military activities. Ross wants to ask 1,000 questions, but military discipline and survival instincts override curiosity. When someone who just saved your life gives orders, you follow them without debate or hesitation. The woman leads them along paths that don't appear on any maps routes that avoid known enemy positions while providing concealment from aerial observation. She moves with the confidence of someone who has traveled these mountains extensively and knows every hiding place they offer. Cole notices she carries minimal equipment beyond her rifle and ammunition. No unnecessary gear to slow movement, no comfort items to betray civilian thinking. Someone who has learned to survive with only essential tools for violence in survival. Her fieldcraft surpasses anything they learned in special operations training. She anticipates threats before they develop, identifies concealment opportunities that escape their notice, and maintains security awareness that would impress SEAL instructors. Hill struggles to keep pace due to his wounds, but the woman adjusts their route to accommodate his limitations without complaint or visible frustration. Professional consideration for wounded personnel that speaks of combat experience with casualties. "Who are you?" Chen asks during a brief halt while she checks their back trail for pursuit. "Someone who was in your position once?" She replies, scanning the horizon through binoculars that cost more than most people's cars. "Someone who didn't get help when it mattered." The answer explains nothing while revealing everything. They're looking at someone who survived abandonment by their own forces, who understands the betrayal of being left behind, while mission commanders write sanitized reports about acceptable losses. Ross realizes they owe their lives to someone who probably receives no recognition, no medals, no official gratitude for intervention that saved American lives. A ghost warrior operating in shadows where governments deny involvement and heroes receive no parades. The extraction point appears ahead a clearing where helicopter noise would be audible for miles, where their rescue becomes someone else's problem. But questions linger about the woman who made their survival possible through skills that shouldn't exist outside classified programs. Cole wants to debrief their mysterious savior to understand how she acquired capabilities that surpass most military training. But she's already fading back into the mountains, like morning mist, leaving only memories and gratitude. They board the rescue helicopter with lives intact and stories they'll never be allowed to tell officially. 2 weeks after extraction, whispers begin circulating through SEAL training facilities and special operations briefing rooms. The official after-action reports mention external fire support of unknown origin, but the men who lived through that Guatemalan nightmare tell a different story in quiet conversations. Specialist Kevin Ross, recovering in a military hospital stateside, finds himself describing impossible shots to fellow patients who listen with the skeptical expressions of men who have seen combat but never witnessed miracles. His account seems too fantastic for belief, yet the physical evidence remains undeniable. They survived an engagement they should have lost. Petty Officer Marcus Hill, his shoulder healing slowly but completely, sketches tactical diagrams that show firing positions and angles that shouldn't have been possible given the terrain limitations. Military instructors study his drawings with professional interest, recognizing expertise that surpasses their own understanding of long-range marksmanship. Staff Sergeant Tommy Chen researches military databases, searching for records of female snipers with the capabilities they witnessed. The files he accesses speak of classified programs and experimental training that officially never existed, shadows within shadows that produce legends without names. Commander Nathan Cole maintains professional silence in his official reports, but privately wrestles with questions that have no comfortable answers. How does a civilian woman acquire military-grade equipment and training that surpasses special operations standards? Who was she, and why was she in those mountains at the precise moment when American lives hung in the balance? The story spreads through unofficial networks that bind military communities together across service branches and geographic boundaries. Seasoned veterans share fragments of similar tales, mysterious interventions by unknown marksmen, impossible shots fired by ghosts who disappear before gratitude can be expressed. In training facilities from Coronado to Fort Bragg, instructors find themselves telling stories that exist in the gray area between official history and military mythology. They speak of a woman known only by code names that change with each telling: Raven Angel, Ghost Phantom, someone who appears when American forces face impossible odds. Intelligence analysts attempt to correlate the Guatemala incident with similar reports from other theaters of operation, but their investigations lead to classified files and operational compartments that exist beyond their security clearances. Official curiosity encounters walls built by people who understand that some secrets serve national interest better when they remain buried. Ross receives visits from family members who struggle to understand his transformation from confident young warrior to someone who speaks in whispers about guardian angels and impossible rescue. His mother notices he clutches her cross differently now, with gratitude that goes deeper than faith alone can explain. Hill returns to duty with shooting skills that somehow improved during his recovery, as if witnessing perfection had elevated his own capabilities through proximity to excellence. Range instructors notice changes in his technique that they cannot explain through conventional training methods. Chen begins researching civilian marksmanship competitions, wondering if their savior operates in worlds that intersect with military training without official recognition. He discovers communities of precision shooters whose skills rival special operations standards, individuals who maintain warrior capabilities without wearing uniforms. Cole receives unofficial inquiries from colleagues who have heard fragments of the story and recognize patterns from their own classified experiences. They share stories that cannot be verified through official channels, accounts of mysterious interventions by individuals who possess capabilities that shouldn't exist outside government programs. The legend acquires momentum independent of official recognition or denial. In remote areas where special operations forces conduct missions that don't officially exist, personnel brief newcomers about the possibility of unexpected assistance from sources they may never understand. Meanwhile, in a small border town where questions are rarely asked and strangers blend seamlessly into local populations, a woman sits in a cafe that serves mediocre coffee and excellent anonymity. She cleans her rifle with ritualistic precision while reading newspapers that report sanitized versions of events she witnessed firsthand. Her presence attracts no attention from customers who have learned that curiosity can be dangerous in places where governments conduct business they prefer to keep private. She appears to be nothing more than another expatriate seeking isolation in places where past lives can be forgotten. But the rifle case beside her chair tells a different story to those who understand the significance of precision equipment maintained with professional dedication. The weapon represents capabilities that transcend civilian hobby skills, that can reshape tactical situations with single shots placed at impossible distances. Fire from the Ridge has become more than tactical reality. It has evolved into symbol of hope for warriors who find themselves abandoned by the institutions they serve. The mountains of Guatemala taught 6 Navy SEALs that salvation can come from the most unexpected sources. The woman they never properly met, whose name remains unknown, whose background stays classified, proved that true warriors exist beyond the boundaries of official recognition. Her story reminds us that heroism doesn't require uniforms, medals, or recognition ceremonies. Sometimes it manifests as a lonely vigil on mountain ridges, watching for moments when intervention can save American lives that politicians have already written off as acceptable losses. Don't judge strength by appearance or assume protection comes only from official sources. The quiet stranger in civilian clothes might possess capabilities that surpass anything taught in military schools, skills developed through experiences too classified for public acknowledgement. Real guardians operate in shadows where their existence protects the comfortable fiction that democratic governments don't employ ghosts to accomplish objectives that officially never happen. The fire that carved a path through Guatemalan darkness continues burning wherever American forces face impossible odds against enemies who underestimate their hidden protectors. True legends don't seek fame. They simply appear when needed most, then fade back into an anonymity that preserves their effectiveness for future missions that history will never record. If you believe stories like Ravens deserve to be remembered, hit like and subscribe to TT Soul Stories, because somewhere out there another hidden guardian may be watching from the ridge.